Lots of people believe in ghosts and hold seances and believe they can communicate with those no longer with us. Back in the Victorian era, it was an absolute obsession. From the 1840s through the 1920s, everyone was into spiritualism. Here's a quick look at 4 people who helped create the craze called Victorian spiritualism.
Let's dig into this.
Warning, viewer discretion advised.
Death was a part of everyday life in the Victorian age. Between 30 and 50% of children died before their 5th birthday, and the American Civil War would result in over 2% of the total population, an estimated 620 to 800,000 dying in battle or from disease.
Memento mori, Latin for remember you must die, was the phrase of the day. A lock of hair or a mourning portrait were popular, cherished keepsakes. But what if you could speak with the loved one, or have a photo taken showing they were actually with you?
Spiritualism burst into the scene, lifting the veil between worlds of the living and the dead, and allowing believers to communicate with those loved ones they had lost with the help of a medium, someone claiming to be able to bridge the gap between the two worlds.
The Fox sisters from New York are recognized as the first famous mediums and inspiration for the entire spiritualism movement. In 1848, 14-year-old Maggie and 11-year-old Katie convinced their family and neighbors that they were speaking to a spirit called Mr. Splitfoot through a series of knocks and taps everyone could hear in their home. Mr. Splitfoot claimed he had been murdered in their house years before and buried in the cellar. This incredible news caused a panic, and the girls were sent to stay with neighbors and relatives. But the knocking and tapping always followed them no matter where they went. The family and neighbors were interviewed, and all swore before witnesses that the Fox home was haunted, and the Fox sisters became famous.
They demonstrated their strange abilities as mediums in 1849 at Corinthian Hall in front of more than 400 paying audience members. It was the first public demonstration of spiritualism and led to the explosion of the movement in the US and around the world. Eldest sister Leah became their manager, and the girls held seances attended by hundreds of paying people eager to ask everything from whether their relatives were happy to what business decisions to make. Soon, publisher Horace Greeley became a patron and printed newspaper articles on the amazing Fox sisters.
Despite a few vocal critics who claimed the sisters were making the rapping and tapping sounds themselves, their fame grew. In 1857, the Boston Courier newspaper offered $500 to any medium that could convince their committee they had actual paranormal abilities. The Fox sisters decided it was a chance they couldn't pass up.
They should have, though. They failed to convince investigators who said the noises produced during the demonstration were made by Maggie and Kate cracking knuckles and moving their feet. Another investigation in 1887 came to the same conclusion.
In 1888, a reporter offered the sisters $1,500 to admit their fraud in an exclusive interview. In front of an audience of 2,000, Maggie demonstrated how the raps and knocks were made, and doctors verified that she was able to crack her joints with such force that could be heard throughout the whole theater. Her signed confession was published in the New York World on October 21st of 1888.
But this wasn't the end of the Fox sisters, or their career. Just a year later, Maggie was desperate for money and recanted. She held seances again, but was never able to fill theaters like the sisters had before their confession. Both Katie and Maggie had serious drinking problems from a young age, and their last years were not happy. Kate died in 1892, and Maggie died the following year. Alcoholism was a contributor to both their deaths.
Oh, and in 1904, a false wall in the Fox sisters' childhood home fell, and bones were discovered behind it. Newspapers claimed it was the body of a man, but a doctor called in to identify the bones stated they were random and included chicken bones, and he believed they were placed there as a joke.
William H. Mumler was a jewelry engraver in Boston, Massachusetts, and he was a photographer in his spare time. While developing a self-portrait in the 1860s, something amazing happened. His cousin, who had been dead a dozen years, appeared in the photo, and Mumler had taken the first spirit photograph.
Becoming a full-time photographer, Mumler moved to New York City as his fame grew. He had plenty of customers thanks to the Civil War, as families who lost loved ones in battle lined up for a photo showing the deceased was okay in the afterlife. Mumler's photos were examined by many experts, and none could prove they were fakes.
The most famous Mumler photo was taken between 1869 and 1872 for a woman calling herself Miss Lindahl. Mumler claimed he did not recognize the woman until he presented her with the developed photograph, with the ghost of assassinated President Lincoln appearing behind her. The sitter was really Mary Todd Lincoln, who believed for the rest of her life that the photo was real and her husband was watching over her.
Mumler had some very vocal critics, including P.T. Barnum, who knew a thing or two about fooling the public. Barnum and others accused Mumler of taking advantage of people while they were grieving, and it got worse. Mumler was accused of staging photos with ghosts who were actually still alive, and breaking into people's homes and stealing photos of their dead loved ones to use in his spirit photos.
In April of 1869, Mumler was put on trial for fraud. P.T. Barnum testified against him, showing a photo another photographer had made of Barnum with ghosts of President Lincoln to prove a point. But others testified for Mumler, completely convinced his photographs were real. In the end, he was acquitted due to lack of evidence. He continued to perfect his spirit photography, creating the Mumler process, and died in 1884, years before his photos were proved to be fakes.
Elizabeth Hope was born in London in 1848 and claimed she grew up in a haunted mansion, having visions of what she called shadow people from a very young age.
By 1870, she was flexing her spiritualism powers, including automatic writing, table turning, and producing the ever-popular ectoplasm, and seemed to be able to make spirits appear too, even ones identified by her audience as their relatives. One of the most popular spirits that visited often was named Yolanda. Under the stage name Madame d'Esperance, Elizabeth became a star.
In 1880, Madame d'Esperance was holding a seance when Yolanda the spirit appeared. When a man excitedly grabbed for Yolanda, he got a big handful of Elizabeth instead, and she was only partly clothed.
It wasn't the only time Madame was caught in the act, though. In 1893, she supposedly made her entire body, except for her head and stomach, disappear during a seance with 15 witnesses. Sitting in a cabinet, it was so dark that she was able to squeeze her legs and shoulders back through parts of her chair to make them disappear. Despite trying to prove her ability to dematerialize by allowing herself to be put in a net, her popularity and her health suffered after accusations of trickery. But she continued to perform seances as Madame d'Esperance until her death in 1919.
There are still folks that believe, despite evidence to the contrary, that the Fox sisters, Mumler, Madame d'Esperance, and others were able to somehow tap into the world of spirits, and spiritualism is actually enjoying a resurgence in popularity today.
Thanks for watching,
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
and we'll see you on the next one.
Hey, here's another DragonDen video you might like.
And if you like this video, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button.
And you can hit the notification bell if you'd like to know when our videos come out.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.